This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, mga Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Gila. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, good afternoon also, Alma, and good afternoon to all our viewers. I'm Gila Pablo, your EBC Thailand correspondent, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, Malacanang announces that Metro Manila will be placed under a less restrictive general community quarantine starting Wednesday, September 8th until the 30th.
For 3 consecutive days, the Department of Health has recorded over 20,000 new COVID-19 cases. The total numbers of infections in the country on Sunday stood at 2,080,984.
And the island of Langkawi will this month become the first Malaysian holiday hotspot to reopen to domestic travelers, according to officials, kicking off efforts to revive the coronavirus-battered tourism industry.
As the COVID-19 pandemic remains complicated, Prime Minister Pan Min-chin ordered strict enforcement of social distancing rules to achieve the goal of containing COVID-19 outbreak at the earliest.
First in our news, Malacanang announced that Metro Manila will be placed under a less restrictive general community quarantine or GC2 starting Wednesday, and that is September 8th until the 30th of this month. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque explained that they will be piloting the proposed shift to granular lockdown as opposed to region-wide restrictions of the country. The general community quarantine, which was introduced on May 1, is generally less stringent than the ECQ. Public transportation is allowed at a reduced capacity, and select businesses are allowed to operate at 50 to 100% of their regular capacity, depending on the industry. Meanwhile, shopping malls are also allowed to operate, although select stalls and stores are allowed to open.
The low pressure area, or LPA, east of Surigao del Norte has developed into tropical depression Jolina on Monday, as the Weather Bureau hoisted tropical cyclone warning signals in several areas. In its 5 a.m. tropical cyclone bulletin, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, said the TD packs maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 55 kilometers per hour. It was last tracked 300 kilometers east-southeast of Giwan, Eastern Samar, or 310 kilometers east of Surigao City, Surigao del Norte. Tropical cyclone winds signal, or TCWS number 1, has been hoisted over Eastern Samar, Dinagat Islands, Siargao Islands, and Bukas Grande Islands. These areas, including Surigao del Norte, may experience moderate to heavy rains. Isolated to scattered flash flooding, rain-induced landslides are possible, especially in areas susceptible to these hazards. Areas under TCWS number will also experience a strong breeze to near gale conditions with occasional gusts. The TD may cause moderate to rough seas over the eastern seaboards of the Visayas and Mindanao. Pagasa advised mariners of small sea craft to take precautionary measures when venturing out the sea. Jolina is forecast to remain a tropical depression until its potential landfall over northern Luzon on Friday, when it is forecast to weaken into an LPA.
Meanwhile, to Malaysia now, where the island of Langkawi will this month become the first Malaysian holiday hotspot to reopen to domestic travelers, according to officials, kicking off efforts to revive the coronavirus-battered tourism industry. Take a look. Now, the usually lucrative sector has been hit hard by months-long restrictions on local travel and international border closures as the country battles its worst COVID-19 wave. But curbs are slowly being eased, and Langkawi has been chosen for a pilot project as the industry seeks to get back on its feet. From September 16, hotels and businesses such as theme parks will now reopen, and beach activities will also be allowed again, according to the Tourism Ministry. The move will boost tourism industry players who have been impacted by the sector's closure, according to the ministry in a statement.
Going now to Thailand, proof of vaccinations will now be required when dining in. We have Esther Odanga for more details. Esther?
Hi, Gila. Good afternoon. That's right. The Thai government is pushing to reopen businesses amidst the increasing COVID cases. Starting on 1st of October, people who have been vaccinated or have a negative antigen test results will be permitted to dine in at restaurants and seek out services from high-risk venues such as barbershops, salons, beauty clinics, massage, and spas. Customers who plans to enter these places needs to fill in a form detailing their infection risk through the government's app Thai Safe Thai. They will also be asked to show their vaccination certificates or a negative COVID-19 antigen test result, which is taken longer than a week before. Moreover, former patients must show records that they have already recovered. All businesses must also comply to strict provincial regulations, such as social distancing measures, making sure that all their staff are fully vaccinated and are screened for COVID-19 weekly. In addition, shops must also disinfect regularly touch surfaces every 1 to 2 hours. Gila, right now, Thailand lagged 13,988 new COVID-19 cases and 187 more fatalities, according to the Public Health Ministry. On Sunday, 17,284 COVID-19 patients were discharged from hospitals after recovering from the coronavirus. Since the pandemic started last year, there have been 1,294,522 COVID-19 cases, with 1,333,077 complete recoveries so far. The death toll stood at 12,948 during the third wave and 13,042 since the beginning of the pandemic. And this information is according to Bangkok Post. Back to you, Gila.
Thank you, Esther, for that update. Stay safe there.
Thank you also, Gila. But before I go, I would like to greet my younger brother a very happy birthday. Reporting live from Pattaya, Thailand, this has been Esther Odanga, and we'll live in interesting times.
The Phnom Penh Municipal Administration will begin administering COVID-19 booster shots from September 6 to 28 for its officials. Spouses and citizens aged 60 and above who receive the AstraZeneca vaccines marketed as Covishield 4 to 6 months ago. According to Municipal Governor Huang Sring, on September 4, the booster shots, which represents the third dose, will be given to officials from his municipal administration, including officials from 14 districts, 105 communes, municipal departments, and their spouses. The The vaccines will be dispensed at designated public hospitals and health centers in each district. The officers and their spouses must produce their public servant cards, ID card, and vaccine cards at the centers in order to get the job. The Police Regional Office 5 or Pro 5 will relentlessly pursue members of communist terrorist groups and make sure they will yield to government forces. Pro 5 has deployed 2,654 of its personnel to 54 quarantine control points or QCP in the Bicol region, the highest number of deployment and border controls among all regions, according to Philippine National Police or PNP Chief General Guillermo Elizar. In a statement on Sunday, he lauded the Pro 5 members who joined the military in an anti-insurgency operation in Irosin, Sorsogon on Thursday, leading to the killing of a ranking officer of the New People's Army or NPA and one of his men. Elizar said the officer had a 5 million Philippine peso bounty. Two other NPA members, initially identified as alias Dexter and alias Bunso, were forced to surrender. The encounter happened at the boundaries of Patag and Kawayan villages in response to a report of the presence of about 40 rebels. The local police is coordinating with the families of the two rebels who surrendered and the two fatalities, so they will be provided with necessary assistance. The Communist Party of the Philippines, NPA, is listed as terrorist organization of the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the Philippines.
Doon ho parte yung babarilan.
Meanwhile, for 3 consecutive days now, the Department of Health has recorded over 20,000 new COVID cases. The total number of infections in the country on Sunday stood at 2,080,984. Take a look. As of 4 p.m. of September 5, a total of 20,019 additional cases or 2,019 additional cases, 20,089 recoveries, and 173 deaths were logged by the DOH. Of the total number of infections, 7.6% or 157,438 are active, 90.8% or 1,889,312 have recovered, and 1.65% or 34,234 have died. Now, there were 119 duplicates removed from the total case count. Of these, 95 are recoveries and 1 is a death.
Going back to Thailand, currently Thailand logged 13,988 new COVID-19 cases and 187 more fatalities during the previous 24 hours, the Public Health Ministry announced on Monday morning. According to the Bangkok Post, there were 13,544 cases in the general population and 444 among prison inmates. On Sunday, 17,284 COVID-19 patients were discharged from hospitals after recovering from the coronavirus. Since April 1, when the third wave of COVID-19 began, Thailand has treated 1,265,659 COVID-19 patients, 1,105,432 of whom have recovered to date. Since the pandemic started early last year, there have been 1,294,522 COVID-19 cases, with 1,133,077 complete recoveries so far.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health said that the 14.3 billion pesos worth of benefits for healthcare workers has been disbursed in two tranches as of September 3 this year. The first tranche, worth around 6.4 billion pesos, covering September 15 to December 19 last year, has been disbursed, representing active hazard duty pay for 384,159 healthcare workers and special risk allowance or SRA for 306,314 healthcare workers. The DOH also said 570 million pesos worth of checks has also been released to 24,034 healthcare workers as COVID-19 sickness and death compensation. Healthcare workers from both public and private health facilities catering to COVID-19 patients are beneficiaries of the benefits. As stated in the guidelines, the DOH, through its Centers for Health Development, or CHD, entered into a memorandum of understanding with health facilities to legally disburse the benefits of the healthcare workers. It also said the health facilities are then responsible for disbursing the benefits to their employers or employees rather, and submitting a liquidation report thereafter. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III assured that the department will push for additional budget for the same benefits of healthcare workers next year as the country continues to grapple with the COVID pandemic. And as the COVID-19 pandemic remains complicated, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh of Vietnam ordered strict enforcement of social distancing rules to achieve the goal of containing the COVID-19 outbreak at the earliest. Speaking at a national meeting on COVID-19 on Sunday, the government chief said social distancing cannot be lengthy as it will affect socio-economic development and cause social distress. Pham stressed that the pandemic situation remains complicated and unpredictable. Thus, authorities must sustain vigilance against COVID-19 and ensure residents to comply with social distancing rules and to access to food and medical services. He also tasked subordinate levels to work out COVID-19 adaptive recovery plans when more vaccines are expected to arrive in the next 2 months. According to Foreign Minister Bui Tan Son, head of the government's working group on COVID-19 vaccine diplomacy, he said that Vietnam received 33 million doses of vaccines as of September 4 and is now expected to increase to around 50 million doses by the end of September. As of 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, Vietnam recorded 524,307 COVID cases, including 520,013 community infections documented since April 27, when the fourth COVID wave hit the country. Ho Chi Minh City remains the epicenter of the current wave with 251,934, accounting for 48% of the national caseload. The daily COVID-19 count is expected to continue rising over the next days as localities are stepping up mass testing, according to the ministry. Ho Chi Minh City, Bien Duong, Long An, and Tiên Giang need to maintain drastic efforts to limit transmissions, according to the government. And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Jolina and I will be back right after this break.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Araw-arawin ng ngiti, araw-arawin ng saya. Happiness kada umaga.
Tropical cyclone o bagyo. Ang bagyo ay isang uri ng lagay na panahon na nagdudulot ng malalakas at mabibilis na hangin at pag-ulan na maaaring maging sanhi ng matitinding pagbaha, daluyong ng dagat at pag-uho ng lupa. Narito ang mga dapat gawin bago dumating ang bagyo. Una, alamin ang balita ukol sa panahon at mga anunsyong pangkaligtasan. Alamin ang plano ng komunidad sa pagbibigay babala at paglikas. Suriin ang bahay at kumpunihin ang mga mahina at sirang bahagi. Ihanda ang gobag na naglalaman ng mga pangangailangan ng pamilya. Ilikas ang mga alagang hayop sa ligtas na lugar. Kapag inabisuhan ang kinauukulan, mabilis na lumikas sa itinakdang evacuation center. Narito naman ang mga dapat gawin habang may bagyo. Una, maging mahinahon. Manatili sa loob ng bahay o evacuation center at makinig sa pinakabagong balita at taya ng panahon. Patayin ang main switch ng kuryente at valve ng tubig. Gumamit ng flashlight o emergency lamp. Maging maingat sa paggamit ng kandila o gasera. Umiwas sa mga salaming bintana. Ito naman ang dapat gawin pagkatapos ng bagyo. Hintayin ang abiso ng kinauukulan na ligtas ng bumalik sa tahanan. Umiwas sa mga natumbang puno, nasirang gusali at linya ng kuryente. Huwag gumala upang hindi maabala ang mga emergency services. Siguraduhing walang basa o nakababad na outlet o kagamitan bago buksan ang linya ng kuryente. Itapon ang mga naipong tubig sa lata, paso at gulong upang hindi pamahayan ng lamok.
Ang trabaho naman talaga ng maritime group ng PNP is to enforce the maritime law.
Tayo lang yung stricto, pero in other parts of the country, pwede na naman ang tourism.
Definitely, we are ready to respond to a possible spike.
Sapagkat ang aming intensyon ay makatulong lang sa mga tao na wala talagang magamit na gamot.
92 voted for this resolution, which will make it stronger, calling on the Justice Department to come up with more stringent ways to be able to avert these hate crimes against Asian Americans.
Mas marami po tayong magagamit ngayon na mga tools or mga equipment.
Maraming salamat, Weng, at sa buong puwersa ng Balitalakayan sa pagkakataong ito.
Tapak kayo ng mga pangunahing balita live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Weng de la Fuente sa...
At itong Balitalakayan, we live in interesting times.
Totoo ang kasabihang may pera sa basura, lalo na kung magagawa ang iba't ibang bagay mula sa mga recyclable material na inaakala ng iba na itatapon na. May ilang barangay sa bansa ang nagre-recycle ng basura at makikita ang iba't ibang bagay na gawa sa basura. Mga dekorasyon sa bahay, proyektong ito, nagiging malinis ang kapaligiran bukod sa mayroon pang pagkakakitaan.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. Low-lying areas in Phnom Penh provinces around the Tonle Lake and the coastal provinces of Priya, Sihanouk, and Koh Kong would experience flooding caused by heavy rains from September 6. Take a look. According to a weather forecast by the Ministry of Water Resources and Meteorology on September 3, Cambodia's weather is being influenced by the Indian low-pressure system from the intertropical convergence zone with low pressure of 1,006 hectopascals, sea winds, and the Dangrek mountain range. Coastal areas will be cloudy with moderate to heavy rains along with thunder and lightning, especially from September 6 to the 11th. The notice on weather conditions has prompted municipal and provincial authorities to take precautions to prevent and respond to risks and dangers presented by the potential flooding.
The number of foreign tourists entering Cambodia through the kingdom's 3 international airports witnessed a sharp 92.5% year-on-year decline in the first 7 months of the year, according to the Ministry of Tourism. The airports handled 51,729 international tourists in the January to July period versus the 693,064 logged in the same period last year, according to ministry data on September 3. Phnom Penh and Sihanouk International Airports recorded 43,909 and 7,816 foreign holidaymakers, respectively, plunging by 88.7% and 87.5%. While no corresponding figure was provided for Siem Reap International Airport, the ministry indicated a steep drop of nearly 100%. On April 1, Prime Minister Hun Sen formally approved a 2021 to 2025 three-phase national tourism roadmap and a 2021 to 2035 Siem Reap Provincial Tourism Development Master Plan to navigate the sector's emergence from the COVID-19 pandemic and support its recovery. And in a bid to revive Cambodia's tourism sector, Minister of Tourism Thong Khon later that month asked Prime Minister Hun Sen to consider opening the door to the Angkor area and other tourist destinations in Siem Reap province in October to December for fully vaccinated international tourists.
In other news, the Philippine Air Force, or PAF, or PAF fleet of F-850 jets are on guard, keeping the watch of the country's skies even before the September 2 incident of a detected, unidentified aircraft flying 120 nautical miles northwest of Bolinao, Pangasinan. Take a look. Your PAF is always on watch for aircraft entering our airspace without proper clearance or permission, according to PAF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Maynard Mariano in a message to the Philippine News Agency. He also added the F-850s are always on alert, even before the September 2 scramble. Scramble in military aviation refers to the immediate deployment of fighter aircraft to intercept an unknown or hostile aircraft. Through its radars, the Philippine Air Defense Control Center, or PADCC, detected last week an unidentified inbound aircraft in the Philippine Air Force, or Air Defense Identification Zone. The unidentified aircraft was heading towards Philippine airspace, and upon coordination with the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, CAAP, it was classified to have an unknown track of interest. The unidentified aircraft did not respond to radio calls made by the PADCC. The PADCC issued a scramble order to 2 F-850 and were given the mission to intercept the unknown aircraft for visual identification. 4 minutes into the intercept, the aircraft changed direction towards the north and increased its speed to 400 knots and headed away from the Philippine airspace. The intercept was terminated at 9:45 in the morning. Mariano said the incident is under investigation and they are trying to determine the exact type of the unidentified aircraft. Meantime, Mariano also said the PAF does not want to speculate on the sighting of the unknown aircraft in Santa Magdalena, Sorsogon. Also on September 2, that was posted on social media.
Staying in the Philippines, former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. urged the government to implement a moratorium on price increases in basic goods amid the COVID-19 pandemic. In its latest suggested retail price or SRP list as of August 29, 2021, the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI had permitted price increases in several basic commodities. The SRP list showed increases as high as 2 pesos and 25 centavos in some goods. Pinoy favorites such as sardines increased by 50 to 75 centavos. Canned meat was up by 75 centavos to 2 pesos. Instant noodles increased by 25 centavos. Marcos said many people lost their jobs and many of them are really having difficulty resuming a livelihood because of the lockdowns.
Meanwhile, the COVID-19 Interagency Task Force or IATF is finalizing guidelines for the proposed granular lockdowns which seek to allow more mobility while isolating heavily infected areas. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez told reporters over the weekend that the IATF has agreed to launch a pilot test of granular lockdowns in Metro Manila beginning September 8, a day after the modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ restriction is lifted in the region. The Department of Trade and Industry or DTI chief said that the next phase of granular lockdown is eyed to be implemented in areas outside the National Capital Region or NCR next month. Lopez also stressed that people are not allowed to go in and out of the vicinity under lockdown except for healthcare workers. Now, for workers who need to go to their workplace, he also said the company should provide temporary housing as they will not be allowed to return. Otherwise, the employees should work from home, according to him. The lockdown may be placed for 14 days, he said, explaining that the period may be adjusted depending on the situation. In addition, Lopez earlier asked for 20% capacity in establishments for the vaccinated population to allow further mobility even during lockdowns. He also added that the vaccinated Filipinos should be allowed to dine in restaurants and go to barbershops, parlors, and other personal care service outlets.
The province of Davao Oriental will be under Enhanced Community Quarantine or ECQ starting Wednesday, September 8 until 21 due to an alarming surge of COVID-19 cases and deaths. The 2-week ECQ was agreed upon by the Provincial Task Force on COVID-19 and all local chief executives of the province to address this surge. They said the increasing number of cases and deaths have already started to overwhelm health and isolation facilities. Governor Nelson Dayanghirang, who chairs the Provincial Task Force on COVID-19, urged all mayors to do their share in responding to the pandemic, particularly in providing support to the healthcare frontliners. He also directed heightened law enforcement on the ECQ and reminded the general public to abide by the ECQ guidelines. Provincial Task Force on COVID-19 Action Officer Dr. Reden Bersaldo reported during an emergency meeting on Friday, that's September 3, that the surge of cases has placed the province under alert level 4, categorized with a high epidemic high risk level. As of September 3, COVID-19 cases in the province have reached 5,653, of which 1,174 are active, a provincial statement said. As of September 5, the active cases hit 1,204, Recoveries were 4,425 and deaths at 169. The total confirmed cases were 5,798. Dr. Bersaldo said that the province has recorded a 286% increase in the number of cases in just 3 months. The city of Mati and the municipalities of Baganga, Governor Generoso, and Lupon were badly hit by the surge. Based on the province's COVID-19 status report, Davao Oriental has a positivity rate of 14%, while the recovery rate plummeted down to 75.2%. Case fatality ratio rose to 2.8%, which is already almost double the national rate of 1.7%. Bersaldo said that 90.6% of the deaths were unvaccinated and mostly with comorbidities, while 8.8% already had their first dose. But he also noted that the remaining 0.6% of the deaths were fully vaccinated. Stay for more news. Alma and I will be back after this break.
Mapupuno ng saya, impormasyon at inspirasyon ang hapon mo sa Afternoon Power. Handog sa inyo ng Net25. Sasabay sa inyong tanghalian ang inyong Happy Time Barkada at 12 noon. Alamin ang mga pangyayari sa ASEAN nations, ASEAN in Focus at 2 p.m. Ang inyong paboritong awit komentaryo kasama si Leo Obligar sa Piskante ng Bayan. At mga balita sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa, hatid sa atin sa Aguila Probinsya. Siksik ang hapon mo mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, ang inyong Afternoon Power sa Net25.
Good vibes kada umaga to get you through your day with a happy heart.
Welcome back. All areas in Metro Manila except for Manila have been classified under COVID-19 Alert Level 4, the highest alert level due to the continuous rise in cases and hospital bed use. Take a look. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berhere said a positive 2-week growth rate and a high-risk average daily attack rate have been monitored in all areas, and the Delta variant detected in all areas. She also said hospital bed utilization in all areas in the National Capital Region is at 74%. Manila is under an alert level 3, which means like areas under an alert level 4, it has moderate to critical risk for COVID-19, but has a bed occupancy rate lower than 70%. Metro Manila and other areas are under a modified enhanced community quarantine until September 7, and the government made the decision to place these areas under the quarantine classification in a bid to arrest the spread of the contagious Delta variant, highly transmissible Delta variant. The World Health Organization said the Delta variant was already the dominant COVID-19 variant in the country, with community transmission of the same detected. This is as, according to the WHO, there are no longer links found among Delta COVID variant cases in the Philippines.
Going back to Thailand, pro-democracy protesters vented their anger in Bangkok's heavy rain Saturday after Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha survived a no-confidence vote in parliament. Let's watch this. More than 300 demonstrators marched in central Bangkok's main shopping mall district carrying red flags and wearing ponchos in the downpour. Ahead of the rally, police used shipping containers to block major routes to the advertised protest site at the Central Lumpini Park, where protesters had planned to march. There was heavy police presence across the downtown area, with riot police and a water cannon truck stationed at the Ratchaprasong intersection near major shopping malls. This week, Thai lawmakers debated an opposition-instigated censure motion about the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic and economic management. Saturday was the third no-confidence motion vote since the 2019 election. The sluggish rollout of Thailand's vaccination program and financial pain from restrictions has heaped political pressure on Prayut's government.
Meanwhile, Malaysia's former leader was selected to head the country's COVID-19 Recovery Council, according to an official last Saturday, just weeks after he was removed from office. Muhyiddin Yassin fell from power last month after rising anger over his government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. But a cabinet decision has now appointed him as the coronavirus body's chairman, as well as a minister government chief secretary, Mohammad Zuki Ali said. Mohammad said the ex-leader, who ruled for 17 months, would, quote, lead the country's recovery strategy to achieve the best economic impact and restore the lives of the people in the virus-battered country. Muhyiddin, to recall, resigned as the Southeast Asian nation's 8th premier on August 21 after several coalition allies withdrew their support for him, ending his razor-thin parliamentary majority. He also took office in March last year, rising to power in time for the pandemic to break out in Malaysia. Though at first successful in curbing the virus with heavy restrictions, Muhyiddin faced growing public anger over his administration's inability to contain outbreaks of COVID-19 variants. Malaysia has reported more than 1.8 million infections since the beginning of the pandemic, with a current rate of about 20,000 new cases and hundreds of deaths every day.
German luxury car maker Porsche will open the first factory outside Europe next year in Malaysia, officials said Friday, seeking to meet strong demand in the Southeast Asian country. The manufacturing site in the northern state of Kedah will carry out final assembly of specific models for the local market, the company and Malaysian officials said. Malaysian Trade Minister Azmin Ali said the move was a strategic decision by Porsche, signifying its commitment to build a long-term presence in Southeast Asia. Currently, Malaysians wanting to buy Porsche have to pay high tariffs for imported vehicles. Other foreign car makers have long operated assembly plants in the country to serve the local market. Malaysia has a fast-growing middle class and has enjoyed robust growth rates in recent years, although a serious coronavirus outbreak has hit the economy hard.
Police arrested Sunday afternoon a suspected big-time drug peddler in Barangay Kalipapa. In a report, Colonel Jibin Bongkayo, Maguindanao Police Director, identified the suspect as Jodatu or Hodatu Fidel, 21 years old, of Barangay Galong, Barangay Balong, Northern Kabuntalan. Bongkayo said elements of the local police, backed by the Maguindanao Provincial Police personnel and Army units from the 6th Infantry Battalion, carried out the buy-bust operation in Sitio 3, Barangay Kalipapa at around 3 p.m. Seized from Fidel were about 25 grams of suspected shabu with an estimated street value of 150,000 pesos. Bongkayo said the Moro Islamic Liberation Front Task Force, Ittihad Unity, provided the police with vital information regarding the suspect's illegal drug activities in the town. Now, charges for violation of Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 are being readied against the suspect, who is currently detained at the Datutiang Police Locked-Up Cell.
Trapped on island habitats made smaller by rising seas, Indonesia's Komodo dragons were listed as endangered on Saturday in an update of the wildlife red list that also warned overfishing threatens nearly 2 in 5 sharks with extinction. About 28% of the 138,000 species assessed by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, for its survival watch list are now at risk of vanishing in the wild forever, as the destructive impact of human activity on the natural world deepens. But the latest update of the red list for threatened species also highlights the potential for restoration, with 4 commercially fished tuna species pulling back from a slide towards extinction after a decade of efforts to curb overexploitation. The most spectacular recovery was seen in the Atlantic bluefin tuna, which leaped from endangered across 3 categories to the safe zone of least concern. The species, a mainstay of high-end sushi in Japan, was last assessed in 2011.
Scary. Thank you, Gila, always for keeping me company here on ASEAN in Focus. Stay safe always.
You're very much welcome, Alma, and you stay safe also. And that's it, the latest news in the ASEAN region. And thank you for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Gila Pablo, your EBP Thailand correspondent, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.